The 10th Book of the Odysseys of Homer. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Phil Schempf. The 10th Book of the Odysseys of Homer. Translated by George Chapman. The Argument. Ulysses now relates to us the grace he had with Aeolus, great guardian of the hollow winds, which in a leather bag he binds, and gives Ulysses, all but one, which Zephyr was, who filled alone Ulysses' sails. The bag once seen while he slept, by Ulysses' men, they thinking it did gold enclose, to find it all the winds did loose, who back flew to their guardian again. Forth sailed he, and did next attain to where the Læstrygonians dwell, where he 11 ships lost, and fell on the Ææan coast, whose shore he sends Eurylochus to explore, dividing with him half his men, who go and turn no more again, all save Eurylochus to swine by Circe turned. Their stays incline Ulysses to their search, who got of Mercury an antidote, which moly was, 'gainst Circe's charms, and so avoids his soldiers' harms. A year with Circe all remain, and then their native forms regain. On utter shores a time they dwell, while Ithacus descends to hell. Another argument. Kappa. Great Aeolus and Circe friends finds Ithacus, and hell descends. To the Aeolian island we attained, that swum about still on the sea, where reigned the god-loved Aeolus Hippotades. A wall of steel it had, and in the seas a wave-beat smooth rock moved about the wall. 12 children in his house imperial were born to him, of which 6 daughters were, and 6 were sons, that youth's sweet flower did bear. His daughters to his sons he gave as wives, who spent in feastful comforts all their lives, close seated by their sire and his grave spouse. Past number were the dishes that the house made ever savour, and still full the hall, as long as day shined. In the night time all slept with their chaste wives, each his fair carved bed, most richly furnished, and this life they led. We reached the city and fair roofs of these, where, a whole month's time, all things that might please the king vouchsafed us. Of great Troy inquired, the Grecian fleet, and how the Greeks retired, to all which I gave answer as behoved. The fit time come when I dismission moved, he nothing would deny me, but addressed my pass with such a bounty as might best teach me contentment. For he did enfold within an ox hide, flayed at 9 years old, all the airy blasts that were of stormy kinds. Saturnius made him steward of his winds, and gave him power to raise and to assuage, and these he gave me, curbed thus of their rage, which in a glittering silver band I bound, and hung up in my ship, and closed so round that no aggression of any breath could find. Only he left abroad the west wind, to speed our ships, and us with blasts secure. But our securities made all unsure, nor could he consummate our course alone when all the rest had got aggression, which thus succeeded. 9 whole days and nights we sailed in safety, and the 10th, the lights born on our country earth we might descry, so near we drew, and yet even then I fell, being o'erwatched, into a fatal sleep. For I would suffer no man else to keep the foot that ruled my vessel's course, to lead the faster home. My friends then envy fed upon the bag I hung up, and supposed that gold and silver I had there enclosed, as gift from Aeolus, and said, "O Heaven, what grace and grave price is by all men given to our commander! Whatsoever coast or town he comes to, how much he engrossed of fair and precious prey, and brought from Troy! We the same voyage went, and yet enjoy in our return these empty hands for all. This bag, now Aeolus was so liberal to make a guest gift to him, let us try of what consists the fair bound treasury, and how much gold and silver it contains." Ill counsel present approbation gains. They ope the bag, and out the vapours break, when instant tempest did our vessel take, that bore us back to sea, to mourn anew our absent country. Up amazed I flew, and desperate things discoursed. if I should cast myself to ruin in the seas, or taste amongst the living more moan and sustain. Silent I did so, and lay hid again beneath the hatches, while an ill wind took my ships back to Æolia, my men strook with woe enough. We pumped and landed then, took food for all this, and of all my men I took a herald to me, and away went to the court of Æolus, where they were feasting still, he, wife, and children, set together close. We would not at their meat thrust in, but humbly on the threshold sat. He then, amazed, my presence wonder'd at, and called to me: "Ulysses! How thus back art thou arrived here? What foul spirit brake into thy bosom to retire thee thus? We thought we had deduction curious given thee before, to reach thy shore and home. Did it not like thee?" I, even overcome with worthy sorrow, answer'd: "My ill men have done me mischief, and to them hath been my sleep the unhappy motive. But do you, dearest of friends, deign succour to my vow. Your powers command it." Thus endeavour'd I with soft speech to repair my misery. The rest with ruth sat dumb. But thus spake he: "Avaunt, and quickly quit my land of thee, thou worst of all that breathe. It fits not me to convoy and take in whom heav'ns expose. Away, and with thee go the worst of woes, That seek'st my friendship, and the Gods thy foes." Thus he dismiss'd me sighing. Forth we sail'd at heart afflicted. And now wholly fail'd the minds my men sustain'd, so spent they were with toiling at their oars, and worse did bear their growing labours. And they caus'd their grout by self‐will'd follies, nor now ever thought to see their country more. 6 nights and days we sail'd. The 7th we saw fair Lamos rise her lofty towers, the least Tragonian state that bears her port so far disterminate, where shepherd calls out. He at home is called out by the other that doth come from charge abroad, and then goes he to sleep, the other issuing. He whose turn doth keep the night observance hath his double hire, since day and night in equal length expire about that region. And the night's watch weighed at twice the day's ward, since the charge that's laid upon the night's man, besides breach of sleep, exceeds the day's man. For one oxen keep, the other sheep. But when the haven we found, exceeding famous, and environ'd round with one continuate rock, which so much bent that both ends almost met, so prominent they were, and made the haven's mouth passing strait, our whole fleet in we got, in whose receipt our ships lay anchor'd close. Nor needed we fear harm on any stays. Tranquillity so purely sat there, that waves, great nor small, did ever rise to any height at all. And yet would I no entry make, but stay'd alone without the haven, and thence survey'd from a lofty watch‐tower raised there the country round about. Nor anywhere the work of man or beast appear'd to me, only a smoke from earth break I might see. I then made choice of 2, and added more a herald for associate, to explore what sort of men liv'd there. They went, and saw a beaten way, through which carts used to draw wood from the high hills to the town, and met a maid without the port, about to get some near spring water. She the daughter was of mighty Læstrygonian Antiphus, and to the clear spring call'd Artacia went, to which the whole town for their water sent. To her they came, and ask'd who govern'd there, and what the people whom he order'd were. She answer'd not, but led them through the port, as making haste to show her father's court. Where enter'd, they beheld, to their affright, a woman like a mountain top in height, who rush'd abroad, and from the council place call'd home her horrid husband Antiphus; who, deadly minded, straight he snatch'd up one, and fell to supper. Both the rest were gone, and to the fleet came. Antiphus a cry drave through the city, which heard, instantly this way and that innumerable sorts, not men, but giants, issued through the ports, and mighty flints from rocks tore, which they threw amongst our ships; through which an ill noise flew of shiver'd ships and life expiring men, that were like fishes by the monsters slain, and borne to sad feast. While they slaughter'd these, that were engaged in all the advantages the closed mouth and most dead calm haven could give, I, that without lay, made some means to live. My sword drew, cut my gables, and to oars Set all my men, and from the plagues those shores Let fly amongst us, we made haste to fly, My men close working as men loth to die. My ship flew freely off, but theirs that lay On heaps in harbours could enforce no way Through these stern fates that had engag'd them there. Forth our sad remnant sail'd, yet still retain'd The joys of men, that our poor few remain'd. Then to the isle of Ææa we attain'd, Where fair hair'd, dreadful, eloquent Circe reign'd, Æeta's sister, both by dame and sire, Both daughters to Heav'n's man enlight'ning fire, And Persa, whom Oceanus begat. The ship fit port here we soon landed at, Some God directing us. 2 days, 2 nights we lay here pining in the fatal spites Of toil and sorrow. But the next 3rd day, when fair Aurora had inform'd, quick way I made out of my ship, my sword and lance Took for my surer guide, and made advance Up to a prospect. I essay to see The works of men, or hear mortality Expire a voice. When I had climb'd a height, Rough and right hardly accessible, I might behold from Circe's house, that in a grove Set thick with trees stood, a bright vapour move. I then grew curious in my thought to try Some fit enquiry, when so sprightly fly I saw the yellow smoke. But my discourse They first retiring to my ship gave forc'd, To give my men their dinner, and to send, Before the adventure of myself, some friend. Being near my ship, of one so desolate Some God had pity, and would recreate My woes a little, putting up to me A great and high palm'd hart, that fatally, Just in my way itself to taste a flood, Was then descending. The sun heat had sure Importun'd him, besides the temperature His natural heat gave. Howsoever I made up to him, and let my jav'lin fly, That struck him through the mid part of his chine, And made him, braying, to the dust confine His flying forces. Forth his spirit flew, When I stepp'd in, and from the death's wound drew My shrewdly bitten lance. There let him lie, Till I, of cut up osiers, did imply A width a fathom long, with which his feet I made together in a sure league meet, Stoop'd under him, and to my neck I heav'd The mighty burden, of which I receiv'd A good part on my lance; for else I could By no means with one hand alone uphold, Join'd with one shoulder, such a deathful load. And so, to both my shoulders, both hands stood Needful assistance, for it was a deer, Goodly well grown. When coming something near Where rode my ships, I cast it down, and rear'd My friends with kind words, whom by name I cheer'd, In note particular, and said: "See, friends, we will not yet to Pluto's house. Our ends shall not be hasten'd, though we be Declin'd in cause of comfort, till the day Design'd by Fate's fix'd finger. Come, as long as food or wine lasts in our ship, Let's spirit our blood, and quit our care and hunger both in one." This said, they frolick'd, came, and look'd upon With admiration the huge bodied beast. And when their first serv'd eyes had done their feast, They wash'd, and made a to be striv'd for meal In point of honour; on which all did dwell The whole day long. And, to our venison's store, We added wine till we could wish no more. Sun set, and darkness up, we slept, till light Put darkness down. And then did I excite My friends to counsel, uttering this: "Now, friends, afford unpassionate ear, though ill fate Lends so good a cause to your passion. No man knows the reason whence and how The darkness grows; the reason how the morn Is thus begun; the reason how the man Enlight'ning sun dives under earth; the reason How again he rears his golden head. Those counsels, then, that pass our comprehension, We must leave to him that knows their causes, And receive direction from him in our acts, As far as he shall please to make them regular, And stoop them to our reason. In our state What then behoves us? Can we estimate, With all our counsels, where we are? Or know, without instruction past our own skills, How, put off from hence, to steer our course the more? I think we cannot. We must then explore These parts for information, in which way We thus far are. Last morn I might display, From off a high rais'd cliff, an island lie Girt with th' unmeasur'd sea, and is so nigh That in the midst I saw the smoke arise Through tufts of trees. This rests then to advise, Who shall explore this? This struck dead their hearts, remembering the most execrable parts That Læstrygonian Antiphas had play'd, And that foul Cyclops that their fellows bray'd Betwixt his jaws; which mov'd them so, they cried, But idle tears had never once supplied. I in two parts divided all, and gave To either part his captain. I must have The charge of one, and one of godlike look, Eurylochus, the other. Lots we shook, Put in a casque together, which of us Should lead the attempt, and 'twas Eurylochus. He freely went, and with 22 more; All which took leave with tears, and our eyes wore The same wet badge of weak humanity. These in a dale did Circe's house descry, Of bright stone built, in a conspicuous way. Before her gates hill wolves and lions lay, Which with her virtuous drugs so tame she made, That wolf nor lion would one man invade With any violence. But all arose, Their long tails wagg'd, and in fawns would close, As loving dogs, when masters bring them home Relics of feast, in an observance come, And soothe their entries with their fawns and bounds, All guests still bringing some scraps for their hounds. So on these men the wolves and lions ramp'd, Their horrid paws set up. Their spirits were damp'd To see such monstrous kindness, stay'd at gate, And heard within the Goddess elevate A voice divine, as at her web she wrought, Subtle and glorious, and past earthly thought, As all the housewif'ries of Deities are. To hear a voice so ravishingly rare, Polites, one exceeding dear to me, A prince of men, and of no mean degree In knowing virtue, in all acts whose mind Discreet cares always us'd to turn and wind, Was yet surpris'd with it, and said: "O friends, Some one abides within here, that commends The place to us, and breathes a voice divine, As she some web wrought, or her spindle's twine She cherish'd with her song. The pavement rings With the imitation of the tune she sings. Some woman or Goddess 'tis. Assay to see with knocking." Thus said he, and they both knock'd and call'd, and straight Her shining gates she open'd, issuing, bade them in to cates. Led, and unwise, they follow'd, all but one, Which was Eurylochus, who stood alone Without the gates, suspicious of a sleight. They enter'd, she made sit, and her deceit She cloak'd with thrones and goodly chairs of state, Set herby honey, and the delicate wine Brought from Smyrna to them, meal and cheese. But harmful venoms she commix'd with these, That made their country vanish from their thought; Which eat, she touch'd them with a rod that wrought Their transformation far past human wants. Swine's snouts, swine bodies, took they, bristles, grunts, But still retain'd the souls they had before, Which made them mourn their bodies chang'd the more. She shut them straight in sties, and gave them meat, Oak mast, and beech, and cornel fruit, they eat, Grovelling like swine on earth, in foulest sort. Eurylochus straight hasted the report Of this his fellow's most remorseful fate. Came to the ships, but so excruciate Was with his woe, he could not speak a word. His eyes stood full of tears, which show'd how stor'd His mind with moan remain'd. We all admir'd, ask'd what had chanc'd him, earnestly desir'd He would resolve us. At the last, our eyes Enflam'd in him his fellows' memories, And out his grief burst thus: "You will'd, we went Through those thick woods you saw, when a descent Show'd us a fair house, in a lightsome ground, Where, at some work, we heard a heav'nly sound Breath'd from a Goddess, or a woman's breast. They knock'd, she op'd her bright gates, each her guest Her fair invitement made; nor would they stay, Fools that they were, when once she led the way. I enter'd not, suspecting some deceit, When altogether vanish'd, nor the sight Of anyone, though long I look'd, mine eye Could any way discover. Instantly my sword and bow reach'd, I bad show the place, when down he fell, Did both my knees embrace, and pray'd with tears thus: "O thou kept of God, do not thyself lose, Nor to that abode lead others rashly. Both thyself and all thou ventur'st thither, I know well must fall in one sure ruin. With these few then fly; we may yet shun The others' destiny." I answer'd him: "Eurylochus, stay thou, and keep the ship then. Eat and drink. I now will undertake the adventure. There is cause in great necessity's unalter'd laws." This said, I left both ship and seas, and on along the sacred valleys all alone went in discovery, till at last I came, where of the main med'cine making Dame I saw the great house, where encounter'd me the gold rod sustaining Mercury, even entering Circe's doors. He met me in a young man's likeness, of the first flow'r'd chin, whose form hath all the grace of one so young. He first call'd to me, then my hand he wrung, and said: "Thou no place finding for repose, whither, alone, by these hill confines goes thy erring foot? Th' art entering Circe's house, where by her med'cines black and sorcerous thy soldiers are all shut in well arm'd sties, and turn'd to swine. Art thou arrived with prize fit for their ransoms? Thou com'st out no more, if once thou enter'st, like thy men before, made to remain here. But I'll guard thee free, and save thee in her spite. Receive of me this fair and good receipt, with which once arm'd, enter her roofs, for th' art to all proof charm'd against the ill day. I will tell thee all her baneful counsel. With a festival she'll first receive thee, but will spice thy bread with flow'ry poisons, yet unalter'd shall thy firm form be, for this remedy stands most approv'd 'gainst all her sorcery, which thus particularly shun. When she shall with her long rod strike thee, instantly draw from thy thigh thy sword, and fly on her, as to her slaughter. She, surpris'd with fear and love, at first will bid thee to her bed, nor say the Goddess nay, that welcomed thou mayst with all respect be, and procure thy fellows' freedoms. But before, make sure her favours to thee, and the great oath take, with which the blessed Gods assurance make of all they promise, that no prejudice, by stripping thee of form and faculties, she may so much as once attempt on thee." This said, he gave his antidote to me, which from the earth he pluck'd, and told me all the virtue of it, with what deities call the name it bears, and moly they impose for name to it. The root is hard to loose from hold of earth by mortals, but God's pow'r can all things do. 'Tis black, but bears a flow'r as white as milk. And thus flew Mercury up to immense Olympus, gliding by the sylvan island. I made back my way to Circe's house, my mind of my assay much thought revolving. At her gates I stay'd, and call'd. She heard, and her bright doors display'd. Invited, led, I follow'd in, but trac'd with some distraction. In a throne she plac'd my welcome person. Of a curious frame 'twas, and so bright I sat as in a flame, a footstool added. In a golden bowl she then suborn'd a potion, in her soul deform'd things thinking. For amidst the wine she mix'd her man transforming medicine. Which when she saw I had devour'd, she then no more observ'd me with her soothing vein, but struck me with her rod, and to her sty bad, Out, away, and with thy fellows lie. I drew my sword, and charg'd her, as I meant to take her life. When out she cried, and bent beneath my sword her knees, embracing mine, and full of tears said: "Who? Of what high line art thou the issue? Whence? What shores sustain thy native city? I amaz'd remain, that, drinking these my venoms, thou art not turn'd, never drunk any this cup, but be mourn'd in other likeness, if once it had pass'd the ivory bounders of his tongue and taste. All but thyself are brutishly declin'd. Thy breast holds firm yet, and unchang'd thy mind. Thou canst be, therefore, none else but the man of many virtues, Ithacensian, deep soul'd Ulysses, who, I oft was told by that sly God that bears the rod of gold, was to arrive here in retreat from Troy. Sheathe then thy sword, and let my bed enjoy so much a man, that when the bed we prove, we may believe in one another's love." I then: "O Circe, why entreatest thou me to mix in any human league with thee, when thou my friends hast beasts turn'd, and thy bed tender'st to me, that I might likewise lead a beast's life with thee, soften'd, naked, stripp'd, that in my blood thy banes may more be steep'd? I never will ascend thy bed, before I may affirm, that in heaven's sight you swore the great oath of the Gods, that all attempt to do me ill is from your thoughts exempt." I said, she swore. When all the oath rites said, I then ascended her adorned bed, but thus prepar'd. 4 handmaids serv'd her there, that daughters to her silver fountains were, to her bright sea observing sacred floods, and to her uncut consecrated woods. One deck'd the throne tops with rich cloths of state, And did with silks the foot pace consecrate. Another silver tablets set before The pompous throne, and golden dishes store Serv'd in with sev'ral feasts. A third fill'd wine, The fourth brought water, and made fuel shine In ruddy fires beneath a womb of brass. Which heat I bath'd, and odorous water was Dispurpled lightly on my head and neck, That might my late heart hurting sorrows check With the refreshing sweetness; and for that Men sometimes may be something delicate. Bath'd and adorn'd, she led me to a throne Of massy silver, and of fashion Exceeding curious. A fair footstool set, Water appos'd, and ev'ry sort of meat Set on th' elaborate polish'd board. She wish'd my taste employ'd, but not a word Would my ears taste of taste. My mind had food that must digest; eye meat would do me good. Circe, observing that I put no hand To any banquet, having countermand From weightier cares the light cates would excuse, Bowing her near me, these wing'd words did use: "Why sits Ulysses like one dumb, his mind Less'ning with languors? Nor to food inclin'd, Nor wine? Whence comes it? Out of any fear Of more illusion? You must needs forbear That wrongful doubt, since you have heard me swear." "O Circe," I replied, "what man is he, Awed with the rites of true humanity, That dares taste food or wine, before he sees His friends redeem'd from their deformities? If you be gentle, and indeed incline To let me taste the comforts of your wine, Dissolve the charms that their forc'd forms enchain, And show me here my honour'd friends like men." This said, she left her throne, and took her rod, Went to her sty, and let my men abroad, Like swine of 9 years old. They opposite stood, Observ'd their brutish form, and look'd for food; When, with another med'cine, ev'ry one All over smear'd, their bristles all were gone, Produc'd by malice of the other bane, And ev'ry one afresh look'd up a man, Both younger than they were, of stature more, And all their forms much goodlier than before. All knew me, clinging about me, and a cry Of pleasing mourning flew about so high The horrid roof resounded, and the Queen Herself was mov'd to see our kind so keen; Who bad me now bring ship and men ashore, Our arms and goods in caves hid, and restore Myself to her, with all my other men. I granted, went, and op'd the weeping vein In all my men, whose violent joy to see My safe return was passing kindly, free Of friendly tears, and miserably wept. You have not seen young heifers, highly kept, Fill'd full of daisies at the field, and driven Home to their hovels, all so spritely giv'n That no room can contain them, but about base By the dams, and let their spirits out In ceaseless bleating, of more jocund plight Than my kind friends; ev'n crying out with sight On my return so doubted, circled me With all their welcomes, and as cheerfully Dispos'd their rapt minds, as if they saw Their natural country, cliffy Ithaca, And ev'n the roofs where they were bred and born, And vow'd as much with tears. O your return as much delights us, As in you had come our country to us, And our natural home. But what unhappy fate Hath reft our friends?" I gave unlook'd for answer, that amends Made for their mourning, bad them first of all Our ship ashore draw, then in caverns stall Our foody cattle, hide our mutual prize; "And then," said I, "attend me, that your eyes In Circe's sacred house may see each friend, Eating and drinking banquets out of end." They soon obey'd, all but Eurylochus, Who needs would stay them all, and counsell'd thus: "O wretches! Whither will ye? Why are you Fond of your mischiefs, and such gladness show For Circe's house, that will transform ye all To swine, or wolves, or lions? Never shall Our heads get out, if once within we be, But stay compell'd by strong necessity." So wrought the Cyclop, when t' his caves our friends This bold one led on, and brought all their ends By his one indiscretion. I for this Thought with my sword, that desperate head of his Hewn from his neck, to gash upon the ground His mangled body, though my blood was bound In near alliance to him; but the rest With humble suit contain'd me, and request That I would leave him with my ship alone, And to the sacred palace lead them on. I led them, nor Eurylochus would stay From their attendance on me, our late fray Struck to his heart so. But meantime my men In Circe's house were all, in several bane, studiously sweeten'd, smugg'd with oil, and deck'd with in and out weeds, and a feast secret served in before them, at which close we found they all were set, cheer'd, and carousing round. When mutual sight had, and all thought on, then feast was forgotten, and the moan again about the house flew, driven with wings of joy. But then spake Circe: "Now no more annoy. I know myself what woes by sea and shore and men unjust have plagued enough before your injur'd virtues. Here then feast as long, and be as cheerful, till ye grow as strong as when ye first forsook your country earth. Ye now fare all like exiles. Not a mirth flash'd in amongst ye, but is quench'd again with still renew'd tears; though the beaten vein of your distresses should, methinke, be now benumb with suff'rance." We did well allow her kind persuasions, and the whole year stay'd in varied feast with her. When, now array'd the world was with the spring, and orby hours had gone the round again through herbs and flowers, the months absolv'd in order, till the days had run their full race in Apollo's rays, my friends remember'd me of home, and said, if ever fate would sign my pass, delay'd it should be now no more. I heard them well, yet that day spent in feast till darkness fell, and sleep his virtues through our vapours shed, when I ascended sacred Circe's bed, implor'd my pass, and her performéd vow which now my soul urg'd, and my soldiers now afflicted me with tears to get them gone. All these I told her, and she answer'd these: "Much skill'd Ulysses Laertiades, remain no more against your wills with me, but take your free way. Only this must be perform'd before you steer your course for home. You must the way to Pluto overcome, and stern Persephone to form your past by the aged Theban soul'd Tiresias, the dark brow'd prophet, whose soul yet can see clearly and firmly. Grave Persephone, even dead, gave him a mind, that he alone might sing truth's solid wisdom, and not one prove more than shade in his comparison." This broke my heart. I sunk into my bed, mourn'd, and would never more be comforted with light nor life. But having now express'd my pains enough to her in my unrest, that so I might prepare her ruth, and get all I held fit for an affair so great, I said: "O Circe, who shall steer my course to Pluto's kingdom? Never ship had force to make that voyage." The divine in voice said: "Seek no guide, raise you your mast, and hoise your ship's white sails, and then sit yon at peace. The fresh north spirit shall waft ye through the seas. But having pass'd the ocean, you shall see a little shore, that to Persephone puts up a consecrated wood, where grows tall firs, and sallows that their fruits soon lose. Cast anchor in the gulfs, and go alone to Pluto's dark house, where to Acheron Cocytus runs, and Pyriphlegethon, Cocytus born of Styx, and where a rock of both the met floods bears the roaring shock. The dark hero, great Tiresias, now coming near to gain propitious pass, dig of a cubit every way a pit, and pour to all that are deceased in it a solemn sacrifice. For which, first take honey and wine, and their commiction make, then sweet wine neat, and thirdly water pour, and lastly add to these the whitest flour. Then vow to all the weak necks of the dead off'rings a number, and when thou shalt tread the Ithacensian shore, to sacrifice a heifer never tam'd, and most of prize a pile of all thy most esteemed goods, and flaming to the dear streams of their bloods, and in secret rites to Tiresias vow a ram coal black at all parts, that doth flow with fat and fleece, and all thy flocks doth lead. When the all calling nation of the dead thou thus hast pray'd to, offer on the place a ram and ewe all black, being turn'd in face to dreadful Erebus, thyself aside the flood shore walking. And then gratified with flocks of souls of men and dames deceased shall all thy pious rites be. Straight address see then the offering thy fellows slew flay'd and imposed in fire, and all thy crew pray to the state of either deity, grave Pluto and severe Persephone. Then draw thy sword, stand firm, nor suffer one of all the faint shades of the dead and gone to approach the blood till thou hast heard their king, the wise Tiresias, who thy offering will instantly do honour, thy home ways, and all the measure of them by the seas amply unfolding. This the Goddess told, and then the morning in her throne of gold surveyed the vast world, by whose orient light the Nymph adorned me with attires as bright, her own hands putting on both shirt and weed, robes fine and curious, and upon my head an ornament that glittered like a flame girt me in gold, and forth betimes I came amongst my soldiers, roused them all from sleep, and bade them now no more observance keep of ease and feast, but straight a shipboard fall, for now the Goddess had inform'd me all. Their noble spirits agreed, nor yet so clear could I bring all off, but Elpenor there his heedless life left. He was youngest man of all my company, and one that won least fame for arms, as little for his brain; who, too much steeped in wine, and so made fain to get refreshing by the cool of sleep, apart his fellows plunged in vapours deep, and they as high in tumult of their way, suddenly waked, and, quite out of the stay a sober mind had given him, would descend a huge long ladder, forward, and an end fell from the very roof, full pitching on the dearest joint his head was placed upon, which quite dissolved, let loose his soul to hell. I to the rest, and Circe's means did tell of our return, as crossing clean the hope I gave them first, and said, "You think the scope of our endeavours now is straight for home. No, Circe otherwise designed, whose doom enjoined us first to greet the dreadful house of austere Pluto and his glorious spouse, to take the counsel of Tiresias the rev'rend Theban, to direct our pass." This brake their hearts, and grief made tear their hair. But grief was never good at great affair. It would have way yet. We went woful on to ship, and shore, where was arrived as soon Circe unseen, a black ewe and a ram binding for sacrifice, and, as she came, vanish'd again unwitness'd by our eyes, which grieved us not, nor check'd our sacrifice. For who would see God, loth to let us see, this way or that bent, still his ways are free. End of the 10th Book.